Previously on Inspired and Admired. We're heading into nut country. The president remarks to his wife Jacqueline after reading a headline on the Dallas Morning News on November 22nd, 1963. After spending the night at the Hotel Texas, the presidential motorcade departs for Coswell Air Force Base. What he is unaware of is this will be his last flight upon Air Force One. Rounding Houston Street and turning left onto Elm, those inside the Lincoln convertible, JFK, Jacqueline Kennedy, Texas Governor John Conley, and his wife Nellie had no idea what was in store. Abraham Zapruder was standing with his 8mm Bell & Howell Zoom-matic camera trained on the presidential motorcade. As he followed the vehicle with his camera, a shot rings out. The president's hands raised to his throat. After being obstructed from a street sign, the film Zapruder is taking captures the headshot. The president's right temple appears to explode as he falls left into his wife's arms. His wife Jacqueline jumps on the trunk of the vehicle. Some would suggest that she was trying to help Secret Service agent Clinton Hill inside the vehicle, but actually she was retrieving brain matter from the president's head. The vehicle speeds off under the overpass on Elm into Parkland Hospital, where President John F. Kennedy would be pronounced dead and become the fourth U.S. president assassinated by a gunshot.
Thank you for listening to Inspired and Admired.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Inspired and Admired and part 2 of the JFK episode. I am Matt Truman. Today we're going to be discussing the conspiracies that surround the assassination of JFK. I think what many of us believe is that there was some type of a conspiracy. And let's be clear. Conspiracies happen. Things happen in this world that we can't quite explain. Was the assassination of JFK something constructed by the CIA? Was it something constructed by the mafia? Was it something constructed by Castro and the communists? Was it something constructed by who knows? Was it all of the above, or was it simply a crazy lone gunman in the 6th floor Texas Book Depository building? 5 investigations by the government says that it was Lee Harvey Oswald. Standing on the ground, if you've been to Dealey Plaza, then you would know that when you watch the footage on television, or you watch a movie, or you watch a documentary, or you read a book about this incident, it doesn't really put it in perspective unless you are standing there. And on the last episode, I talked about how easy of a shot it would have been if someone were posted up behind the stockade fence. It would have been an easy shot to make. On that note, it would also be an easy place to be recognized. Now, I wasn't there in 1963, so I don't know how the trees or the shrubs and everything was formed, or, you know, they keep replacing the stockade fence that's there, and I think they've replaced it a bunch of times. But we don't actually, is it set up to be the exact length and height and all the things that would have to be in place? So, you know, was there trees obstructing Oswald's view from his perspective? I'm not sure. I mean, you would have to be right there at that time to understand that. Now, there's a lot of the same structures that are in place. There's a lot of different escape routes if there were somebody standing behind the stockade fence. There's one part where I guess there's a sewer main that's there that could have been an easy escape route. The train tracks could have been an easy escape route. You could have parked a car back there for an easy escape route. Many people heard a shot from that area and ran toward that area. Could someone have shot and broke down their weapon and shoved it in a bag and ran off quickly. It's possible. It's also possible that Oswald made all 3 shots. Some people claim it was 3. Some people claim it was 2. Some people claim it was 15, upwards of 15. There's a lot of conspiracy surrounding this. So we're going to get into it. I want you guys to check us out on Facebook at Inspired and Admired Podcast. Check us out on Twitter at True Podcast. Check us out. Check me out on Instagram at doc_true_man. And yeah, we're on Spreaker.com/show/2357021. So it's www.spreaker.com/show/2357021 to get all the episodes I put out on Inspired and Admired. I appreciate you doing that. If you would also share this podcast with a friend, if you enjoy listening to it, I think some other folks might enjoy listening to it. I also want to say thanks to Jerry Marks for commenting on our Facebook page. I appreciate that. It always helps to hear what people think, and I appreciate it. So thank you for that. Let's get into part 2 of the JFK episode. Okay, so if you remember from last time, Oswald defected to Russia. Oswald also flew back from defecting to Russia, flew back to the United States right around a year or so before John F. Kennedy was assassinated. At the time, this is after Bay of Pigs, and we talked about all this in the first episode. If you haven't if you haven't listened, check out the first episode, part 1. But anywho, Oswald flew back, and this was after the Bay of Pigs invasion, and this was also after the Cuban Missile Crisis. And after the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a hotline developed. It was an easy way for the U.S. and Russia, or the Soviet Union, to communicate and hopefully avoid, which they did obviously, avoid nuclear war. So, was it possible that when Oswald went back, he was recognized A, as a Marine, B, as someone who was against the ideas of John F. Kennedy or the entire administration, and was put in play as a secret agent? Was it possible that the Russians put him up because they put him up in this, they gave him a job, but he made a lot more, I don't know about a lot more, but he made a decent living. They put him up in a nice place compared to other Russians. And he had just come from America. And at that time, America and the Soviet Union were going at it with the Cold War. So was it possible that Oswald was sent to the United States to assassinate Kennedy? And was it possible that the KGB at the time gave him assistance? Because it's well documented throughout history that we have CIA agents in different countries of the world, double agents even. Other intelligence agencies have people in our country. It's just, that's how espionage works. So was it possible that he had help and moved back and assassinated John F. Kennedy? Some would say that he got his job at the book depository building rather quickly. It could also be possible that they just needed people and hired him on the spot. Dallas is a big city. And when you have big cities, the job market tends to be easier, especially around that time, 63, to get a job. So anyway, Oswald moved back to the United States. He went down into Mexico to meet and try to go to Cuba. So was he going to Cuba to get other help, money, meet with, because obviously the Russians and the Cubans were working together. Was he supposed to go to Cuba to meet with a KGB operative and come back up and assassinate Kennedy? These are all the conspiracy theories that happen. And let's not forget that anytime people work together to do something like this, say 9/11, that was a conspiracy because the 19 hijackers conspired to commit that terrorist act. Anyway, it's a truth and it's a conspiracy. That's the point I'm trying to make. So all these things, don't get confused when you hear, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Well, it's just false, because it's not just false. A lot of times conspiracies happen. Anywho, so was it possible that the Russians were involved with that? Was it possible that the mafia was involved? These are all things that come up. There was a lawyer for the mafia, Frank Regano, who published a couple different books. One of them, Mild Lawyer, in 94, that talked about how the assassination was all a plot by the mafia, because at that time, J. Edgar Hoover and Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and everybody, they were going after the mafia. They wanted to take down the mafia. The mafia did not want to have anything to do with that. They had their business set up the way they liked it, the way they were running it, the Cosa Nostra, and they liked it like that. So was it possible that they took part in the assassination? Some folks believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was involved when we're talking about the mafia conspiracy theory. Some folks believe that Lee Harvey Oswald was involved. Jack Ruby, who later, a couple days later, assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald, killing him in the parking garage when he was being transferred from the city jail to the county jail, he was associated. He owned a club in Dallas. He had well-known connections to the mafia, Chicago mob. So people think that Lee Harvey Oswald was part of it, but they also believe that there was this is where the second gunman and the grassy knoll takes shape. They believe there was a second gunman. In case Oswald didn't get the shot off, this person would be able to get the shot off. So they would both shoot, which is kind of what I believe is that there was two shooters. The other one was just never caught. But just from, I don't know, reading all this stuff and being there, and so yeah, that's another conspiracy theory. The one that I am most fascinated with, and it's probably helped by Oliver Stone, is Jim Garrison, who was the district attorney in New Orleans. He believed it was, a right-wing activist group in connection with the CIA who assassinated Kennedy. Now, Jim Garrison was he trying to make a name for himself, or was, the way Kevin Costner portrays him, he seems like a very nice guy, stand-up guy, and he was just following the clues that he had from New Orleans and the people he interviewed and things like that. So in the film JFK by Oliver Stone, Jim Garrison seemed like a good dude. And Jim Garrison took the movie's pretty correct in the fact that, all the things that they portray in the movie is part of the conspiracy. Jim Garrison took this to trial. His key witness was against a man named Clay Shaw, was another man named Perry Russo. He was a 25-year-old insurance salesman from Baton Rouge, and he testified that he attended a party. It was like a anti-Castro activist at a person's house named David Ferry's. I guess he lived in an apartment, David Ferry's apartment. And at the party, Russo said that Lee Harvey Oswald told him, or was introduced to him, as Leon.